President Gales. Secretary Sessions.
Yep.
Treasurer Hannon via Zoom.
Yep.
Trustee Simpson.
Here.
Trustee L.
Yes. So do I have a motion for the approval of minutes from the regular meeting 7/18/23? Closed session 7/18/23. Second. Support from everyone? Anyone opposed? Okay,
Just say aye.
Aye.
Just make sure I can hear, especially in the recording.
Right.
You were giving it to me.
Any comment from the public? I guess you still qualify as public.
I guess so.
Even though you're pseudo committee.
Good evening, I don't have any public comment, but nice to see you all.
Thanks for bringing all your, thank you for coming again. Thanks for joining.
It's
a pleasure to see you every month now.
Maybe I will bring a friend.
You never know.
This is the first time we've had somebody, the same person show up for 3 meetings in a row.
Yeah.
What am I, just chopped liver?
Excessive, I mean.
You were.
He had a job.
It doesn't-
Not in the beginning, I was just showing up.
You were curious, George. Of course, let's start with next president. I'm not here, so let's start with James.
All right,
I
everybody.
can, yeah.
Already made a motion.
Well, John did provide a report,
Yeah, the report's in the packet.
but he just did, was not going to be in the.
Yeah, typically with John, unless you ask him to be here, he'll just be here quarterly or so. That's how
Okay,
it
that's fine.
usually works.
I'll make a motion to accept John's report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Isn't that all part of the under the treasurer's report? Would it
We're gonna let
normally
you
accept
today,
them all
okay?
individually?
You're gonna get muted in a minute.
Yeah, you are
I
correct.
thought we were muting this guy.
You are correct, however, I want to do it separately for a reason, because with your POS, with the preliminary official statement, you don't have to take action. It's just for you guys to know that that's on there. You don't have to approve it. It gets reviewed by the attorneys and the chief, and then they'll change it into an official statement, but that's for the purposes of the bond deal. So you don't have to actually adopt it at this time, because we'll,
Okay.
so you are correct typically, but because we had it on there, I kind of wanted to do separate things.
Well, Rob, I want James to go first, because I know you always have a couple questions about the runs. So, how many runs we've had, so we're gonna let James start. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, no, my bigger concerns are on that, the POS document, so.
All right, thank you. Jeff or James?
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. And then we're gonna walk through the first quarter of the fiscal year, ended July 31st. So let's start with some revenue highlights. Again, 25% of the way through, we've collected 60% of our total budget. Property taxes in though at about 2.3 million, or 54% on the first major installment from the county. So that number looks very good, as we should have about half the property taxes in that first installment, and then the next one taking us to 100% in September. Ambulance fees in at 337,000. Again, we're at 27% of the budget, 2% better than where we are in the year. So good numbers there. PPRT, that's the business tax, comes in 8 times a year from the state, about $17,900 or 36%. Investment income to date about $14,600. So as we take a look at our revenue lines, percent of budget versus last year, obviously a big uptick in tax collections with the passage of the referendum. We're at 54% of what we budgeted, up 57% over last year. Ambulance fees in at 27%, up 9%. Replacement tax, this one will be lower than last year, as the states come out and said they've reallocated some of the replacement tax. So again, we're down about 14%, but not a big number, about $2,500 or so. Investment income, again, we know rates are better. We're going to see a little bit better bang for the buck there, especially with John's team now on board. You see we're up 720%, 14,600 collected. All in 2.6 million for revenues, 15.8 million is the budget. We're at 17%, up 32% year on year. Look at the distribution, taxes in the lead there at 86%, investment income 0.6, replacement tax 0.7, ambulance fees 13%. So we look at the month of July, we had kind of a back to normal month, if you will, 70,000 collected there. Our total is 337. We're averaging about 112,000 a month. So that's beating our budgeted average of 104. as well as our 12-month average last year of about 109,000. So a good start in terms of collections through the first 3 months. The expenditure side, at 25% of the year gone by, we're at 9% of the total budget expensed. Operationally, though, 23%, so 2% better than where we are in the year. Comp and benefits at 22%. Salaries, 625,000 at 22%. Health insurance, 180,000 spent, or 25%. Building and facilities, we've got about 36% of the budget spent. We did have about 20,000 for the exterior doors. Equipment and vehicle maintenance at 9%. Training and education at 11%. Again, as we kind of look at that percent of budget column, versus last year, we're at 25% of the year gone by. We should be roughly at that mark across all line accounts. Now, there'll always be some differences based on timing of when expenditures go out the door, but comp and benefits at 22%, that's up 34% over last year. The pension fund, that's almost on the numbers. We've received half the taxes and half the taxes go to the pension fund. That's up 26% versus last year. Legal and professional up a little bit, 34%. Buildings and facilities at 36%, so both of those up over last year. Some inflationary costs in there. But about 1.25 million spent so far, 5.4 million is the budget. We're at 23%, up 26% over last year. Some capital outlay today, you see about 2% of that budget spent. Again, the building is going to be the big piece of that. And again, we're going to talk about the bonds tonight. In terms of the distribution, comp and benefits at 66%, the pension fund 19%, legal and professional about 9%, admin 0.9%, building and facilities 3.5%, fire equipment rescue 0.1%, training and education 0.5%. So after 3 months, again, we're in a surplus position, not uncommon. Remember, we received half of the tax monies, but only 3 months of expenditure. So about 1.2 million in the black, 4.3 million is where we started. So we're at 5.5 million in ending fund balance. And again, you can see that uptick this year versus last year in terms of our surplus position, again, mainly on better revenues. 4.2 million across all accounts. You can see our CDs are now closed and all of that money has been moved over to our Schwab account. That's the managed account by Sir Faldudo, almost 4 million in that account. And again, most of that earning, 4 to 5%. So again, we're going to continue to see a nice number in terms of interest returns on those accounts this year. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions from the board.
It's nice to see that interest money coming in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's been a lot.
Huge.
Yep.
From Joe's perspective, even though I live in town as well, what your financial report shows is that you guys really needed to pass that referendum. So as only been your lawyer for 1.5 years, 2 years, you don't, from the outside as a citizen, you don't know. But then, when you brought me in and, this is what I do, there was no doubt that referendum was, not just because of what you want to do with the station project, that's actually separate. Like based on what the figures are showing, just that extra revenue is almost like a savior for you guys. So, so you guys know that, but that's just a comment from someone who was kind of new, but really didn't know what was going on because he wasn't coming to your meetings, and then someone's coming to your meetings. I can tell you that for sure.
Thank you. Thanks for the validation.
Yeah, well, I don't know, it's just the truth.
We had a lot of help. One of the biggest helps was the person who's sitting right here in the room with a plaid shirt. Yeah. Very modest about it, but just a dynamo. It was a fun challenge. Just a dynamo. We had help from the school, we had help from the village, and opposed to opposition for once. We had help from all the corners in the community. So and our residents. Yeah, well, they did. But you were the fourth corner. But that, we were fortunate.
Yeah.
I think they recognize that we really did have a need. Well, now that we've patted ourselves on the back, do we want to let Rob talk a little bit? No.
Do you guys want to approve and receive the report?
He has his little. Rob has to talk about his report, and then we have to approve.
The only comment I had on my report is just you'll notice we talked last month about some of those transfers that were taking place, and specifically some of the big transfers that were taking place out of the money markets over to the Schwab account, and then you can also see the what I believe was the first outlay of money into the money market where we're then paying our checks out of. Is that correct, Robin?
We moved money from the money market into the checking account, and then John was able to sweep money from the checking account into the general operating Schwab account.
Yes, that's what I mean. So
I knew that's what.
just wanted to point out that is all going through as we had planned. Obviously, you guys saw it on John's report, and again with James' report that the interest income is happening the way that we were all hoping. So it's all very good news on that.
Thanks, man. Are you finished, sir?
Rob, did you have a
That's-
concern when,
We're gonna get that.
I'm- Yeah, that's a next, I think.
John's,
On the bonding, the POS.
well, he said he had a concern with John's report, I thought.
No, not John's on the bond. The yeah,
POS.
not on John's, no, or James. Those are all good.
Make a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Second bond.
Roll call, please.
President Gillis,
Yes.
Secretary Sess,
Yes.
Treasurer Hammond,
Yep.
Trustee Simpson,
Yes.
Trustee Allen.
Yes.
And then we'll on to the bond report, if that.
Yeah, what you got, I think all you guys got, it's called a preliminary official statement, is, I don't know, I didn't make copies, but it's, no.
I emailed it to everybody, I didn't. make
Yeah, I thought it was in
copies
the
because
email.
It's like 40
Oh, I
pages.
didn't
Yeah,
print
wasn't it? It was all.
I'm sorry, I didn't print it.
Yeah, and now, and you don't, here's what I'm gonna ask you to do, especially since this is one of the first one that you guys have done in a while. I have until next week to make any, changes to it. I would like just for you guys, for the most part, it looked like it was correct. I think it may have had,
Page 2 is all screwed up.
right, there we go. I think it had the trustees wrong, and I don't know if obviously the commissioners aren't correct.
Right.
Right,
So I need your names of your commissioners, because I don't know.
I can get that to you.
Okay, and, I just gotta change through this whole thing here, so that's the first thing. The other parts, I don't think there was a ton wrong. but-
And Steve already emailed over, Chief already emailed over, but the actual project that's listed is entirely wrong throughout the entire document. So that's a big one that's got to get fixed.
Where is it? Let me,
You can just look at the cover page. It says specifically bond proceeds will be used to renovate, repair, and equip district facilities and purchase emergency response fleet and equipment. That's not what we're doing with it. So I think we need to make sure that gets updated throughout the entire document.
got it.
Yeah, I did already email the Spear about that particular point. I haven't heard back yet, but I did email and the language actually should probably go to Attorney Miller. However, the type of language that I emailed back to her with was construction and cost of debt issuance, I think was simply what I had changed it to. But again, I haven't gotten confirmation back from her about that yet.
And I'll
And
email.
just,
Bob.
that's one of those things where it's referenced the same way multiple times. So it's got to make sure that they, don't just replace it on the cover page. It's got to be replaced throughout.
Gotcha.
Other concerns, page 6, I didn't know if we were actually using our 2022 annual report or the 2023, if that will be done in time for it to be used as part of this. So I wanted to ask that question.
Right now, they're still finalizing the 2023 annual report, so until I get a confirmation from them that they're ready to present to the board, it won't be final, so I don't have that information just yet.
Yeah, and in theory, they have until October.
Right.
So-
Okay, so we'll hopefully get this rolled out before all that. And then the other thing I was curious about, or one of the other areas, and again, Joe, if this needs to go offline, it can. But page 9, it just talks about future pension plan funding requirements, and the way it was written out just didn't seem like it fully corresponded properly, at least in my head, to the pension consolidation that took place. So I just want to make sure that whatever it's saying there does apply to what we're doing. It talks about being got to be 90% funded ratios and things like that. And I just didn't know if that all, does the pension funding all still apply to a funding ratio like that now that there's been the consolidation?
Yes, for some reason I thought they had changed it to 2050, but maybe it is still 2040. I don't do a ton of the pension law. All right, and let's talk about this whole thing in the second paragraph about the state comptroller.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. It does
Okay.
not apply to you because you don't get any state taxes. So how the
Got
state comptroller does it is that if to do an intercept, let's say you were getting some sort of a state tax, you get your property tax is not a state tax. If you're getting some sort of a state tax, then they can intercept that to go to the pension fund. As a fire district, you don't actually get a municipal department because a municipality has some state funds. You don't
Okay.
a state fund. They include that on everyone because that's technically correct. It won't happen to you. It has
Okay.
happened with municipalities. I think Carolyn did one. But I've had at other places, a pension fund person say, well, we'll get the state to intercept. I'm like, well, good luck. We're a fire district and we'll see you later. So that's technically correct. I have, issues. But that's not one of those things that actually will happen. And besides that, I think you guys are actually funding, you're meeting your requirement anyway. So that's.
Yeah, I believe we were, but again, I just seeing it, I just want to make sure it all was proper because something wasn't driving there. So, that's the extent of where my questions and concerns came in.
On page 8,
Yes, sir.
the first paragraph seems to describe the state sales tax that they give to municipalities from road taxes. I don't think that it's eligible, applies to us, does it?
No, it doesn't. So I'll talk to them in regards to that. I actually think that's probably something that they include in most of theirs, but.
Well, it looked like they copied the one from the village, so I
Yeah.
presume that's why that paragraph was there.
That's where the Carl Sorgan came from. I'm like,
Right.
Carl Sorgan, I've lived here for 25 years and I don't know. So, yeah, well. But I'll talk to them about that. So. And what I'll probably do is, I'll be traveling the next few days, but I'll send like an email to them and I'll include Robin and the chief on it. I don't want to create any open meetings act issues. And then Robin and I usually, Chief and I call and text, Robin texts me because they realize like, that's probably the best way to get it.
That's your immediate.
That's my immediate. You call my office phone.
Read your emails.
Right, yes. That's what she said. Read your
I
email.
don't have jerk issues.
No, read your email, jerk. Yeah, because I get usually from Robin. I sent you an email, jerk.
Minus the jerk.
I never said that. I was actually looking at the chief.
Okay, Bill. It's an easy target. I feel so much better because I'm very good.
Yeah, I know. So I will contact Spear and bond counsel on those things. I'll include the chief and Robin on the email. It'll probably be like something like tomorrow night or something, because I'm driving to South Carolina tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Gotta go some lunch to their apartment.
They don't know how to do it themselves yet, huh?
It's a moment. You know what?
I've got to.
Yeah.
Great, so we are
So she's replacing.
covered on this.
Yes.
We already passed this once, do we need to?
No, you don't.
Approve it now?
It's nothing to pass. So we
Okay,
just,
it's information.
it's information, we make the changes, we
Right.
contact them and we'll go from there.
Okay, then we're good, we move on to the chief's report, which I'm sure is lengthy. Special operations training for this month was technical rescues, slope evacuation, so if someone is on one of the hills or sledding hill or something like that, they get stuck, they get hurt, they have medical emergency, whatever, how do you go down there and get them, how do you get them back up or all the way, rest of the way down safely? It's actually a lot more involved than you would think, and we did some actual training on that. It was hosted by Gerald Training Bloomingdale.
It was, what was the name of the forest preserve? Do you remember offhand? It was up in, it was up in Bloomingdale, very big hill, so it was good, it was good training for the troops.
Good workout.
It was.
Good workout.
Monthly, multi-company training for the month, multi-casualty incidents, also hosted by Bloomingdale, so what we're doing is simulated like a bleacher, like and then getting in there, you have to stabilize, extricate. So the big thing with multi-casualty and multi-victim incidents is a lot of patient tracking, so it's very command oriented in terms of, the troops go in, they do triage, that has to be done rapidly, start establishing, how hurt people you have, and then the whole act of where they're located, getting them to tarps, getting them to transport, getting them to the hospitals, and then making sure that, getting them back together with the families, all that stuff. There's a lot of intricacies to it. So which patient goes to what hospital, what their status is and all the other stuff, and then reunification and all the other stuff. So it's very command concentric drill, and it's in progress today, tomorrow, and next. Recent incidents of note. So we've had several alerts at DuPage Airport, which we go because they don't obviously have water, like fire hydrants on the airport grounds in terms of by the runways and stuff. So we and the other tenders in the area will go there if they have an in-flight emergency or something worse. And we have been there several times over the last month, actually from the 22nd through the 24th. We were there multiple times for aircraft alerts. Just an interesting little side note. And then
What kind of alerts, what are you talking about?
smoke in the cockpit, landing gear malfunctions, mechanical, could be an engine failure. I mean, it runs the game. Yeah. And so there are different alert levels, which denote what kind of response goes, and alert 3 being the worst of those, of course.
When was the last time we did a training on a plane with West?
We do at least, so we do multiple different drills annually. So we train with them multiple times a year, and it's a matter of what. So last year, there are vendors that bring in aircraft fuselage props that are burn props. So they light them on fire and you go in there, fight the fire. You have to go in there, search and take victims from the fuselage. You have to put out the flames outside. They have pots set up to put out fires. So that one we do once a year. And then it's actually coming up, I think in September, or is it October, that they're doing the airport hosts a multi-agency huge response drill, the whole command element, the whole thing, big airplane, all of that. And that happens annually as well. That's part of West Chicago getting their certification, and part of us as the partner agencies having our stuff dialed in so we can go there and assist. So different trainings annually.
Okay. Good.
We've also had a bunch of water rescue calls this month. So we went to West Chicago to assist them with a car and water in the area of Arbor in Charleston. We went to dive team and deputy chief went to Bensonville to assist with a person in the water in late July. And then we had our own call in the river on July 29th. And we were assisted by West Chicago, Carroll Stream, Bloomingdale, and Warrenville. It turned out, thankfully, to be good. Overtipped canoes or kayaks in the water. We had calls, people saw the overtipped canoes. We sent initial companies down to recon. They found personal items on the canoe, which then prompted an active response. And then as part of that coordination with the Forest Preserve and the DuPage County Sheriff's Office, we're able to track down the owner, and then we got a head count and everything was good. But it was an active incident, and the troops did really well. We had assets downriver within minutes, and it was a very, very clean operation.
Basically, they got tipped over, the canoe got away from them.
And walked out. Which happens.
4 kayaks, actually.
Yeah.
Full count, but yeah, 4 kayaks. We found 2 of them. And then the guy did come back and identify that there was this kayak. There was
I'm getting that, yeah.
You know, we canoe down this river all the time. I can't imagine losing a canoe.
Well, it was after,
We
it was
found
right after
shoes
a lot
and
of
blood.
rains, it was flooded, it was way over, it was way over the banks, and it was about double its usual depth, so.
Okay, so it's not running fast.
Yes. So several data calls this month. We got called for a lot of fires, which thankfully weren't, but so we had the airport stuff, the dive rescue stuff, and then we had a hazmat on the St. Charles Road, which was partially in our district, partially in Carroll Streams. And again, with huge assistance, say Hanover Park, one of our partner agencies, actually has a staffed on duty hazmat response thing that was incredibly helpful in this endeavor. So compliments to Hanover Park, and everybody uses them in this area, and they're super good, super knowledgeable, super fast. They helped mitigate the incident. Carroll Stream, Roselle was involved. Chief Posick from Roselle was in there. Unidentified petroleum products in the river. So Hanover Park put the booms in to stop the contamination, and then did sampling. Contacted all of the requisite state
Is this
agencies.
coming out of a business, a truck, or where was it coming from?
A business
Business.
in another jurisdiction.
100-day times.
So, but just a lot of those kinds of calls, which active, involved, I mean. And usually what I report onto the board every month is the calls that are, you know, long-term stuff where people saw, hey, what's going on over there with all, because there was 100 trucks and that kind of thing. All of the ones in this particular report were all ones that were atypical, low frequency, high hazard events. So it was an active month from that perspective. Service anniversaries this month. Seth Lamb celebrated 9 years with the district on July 28th. And Jake Armstrong, who's on duty around here somewhere, they've had a lot of calls today. Jake Armstrong celebrated 5 years with the district on July 23rd. Great. Fleet update. The engine is still on schedule to be completed on September 22nd. We're supposed to be flying out for the final inspection on or about September 29th. New ambulance, haven't gotten updated reports. The ambulance that was involved in the wreck, we're working through with insurance company, and we're coordinating the repairs for that, so that's all handled.
Excuse me, so our body shop parts our automobile parts are hard to get by. I mean, it's just to get something repaired, it takes a long time. What's is that ambulance drivable?
It is. We're gonna operate it until we get our other ambulance back from repairs.
So this is one we saw with the little nick on the side and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
More cosmetic.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a matter of when we have everything else, to very much to your point, sir. When we have everything else coordinated, we're gonna send it out, get it done, so we're covered, we're not running into that problem. And there's only one part we actually need to get, it's a wheel. Everything else is, there's no parts that are required.
All right.
In terms of the commission work, they just met yesterday, and the initial eligibility roster is posted, so we're waiting the 10 days for preference points to be submitted, and then they'll be meeting again to ratify the list.
How big is our list?
8 people.
8 people.
That's pretty good.
By modern standards, that's pretty
How
good.
far away, or when do you think that, when does that 10-day expire?
We have a meeting a week from Monday.
And we will be looking to hire 3 people to fill vacancies. Right? To get up to that.
So there will be 3 calls immediately.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, then that following day. And once again, going back to the referendum, one of the points of that was to hire the 6th person, update the fleet, update the facilities, and then after we update the facilities, to get the 7th person going. So this is that 6th person part of that right here, is those 3 spots filled. And so that's going into 3 vacancies we're talking about. Architect update. So we obviously talked about the POS in terms of the bond and the bond timeline. And then I don't know, we want to talk about the from our last meeting about the outreach to the community with respect to that.
Oh, letting
everybody over in the neighborhoods know that, yes, we're moving forward. We've had some discussion on that, how far out we should go and where we should go with that.
So the discussion that we had, when we were with the architects to just see if they would even be available to help us do some community outreach, to do a presentation. And we were, as we were talking, we were worried that if we did an open, let's say an announcement in the newspaper or on Facebook or just a public announcement, that we didn't want the neighbors most immediately around, or we were thinking that we didn't want the people most immediately around the fire station site to read about it in the newspaper first before they had a chance to get a direct communication, just as a good neighborly gesture was what we were throwing around the idea for. And
so we're talking about just starting out with the immediate
I agree, you know what,
neighbors.
I think there's two neighborhoods, there's a neighborhood that's new where the property is, and there's a neighborhood right behind it to the north. Fredericks.
It's actually.
Fred Farms across County Farm Road.
No, not across, right.
Across the power line.
Yeah.
Where St. John's Road is.
But we need,
Yeah.
we need to go across County Farm Road, because that's where we're gonna be going out. Our lights are gonna be on.
I mean, those sirens are gonna
We
be
need-
blasting at some
we need
people's
to-
back windows,
yeah.
their bedroom
We need
windows.
to give them a courtesy.
Right.
And what are you? I think the time frame is very delicate. I mean, obviously, we need to have our ducks in a row. I think it's
Well,
important to
what
inform
we-
the public,
we
but I
discussed-
think that we need to be prepared before we inform the public about what's going on, so that they don't all of a sudden have an uprising. I mean, not trying to, obviously, we're having an open meeting, we're not trying to hide anything, but,
Well, we're gonna invite them into the station. We're gonna basically have, we're talking 3, Scott said 3, right? Pictures,
Renderings, so.
renderings of what our plans are.
So we asked Scott, like, what had other agencies done in similar situations to let public members know what the plan was? And he said, you know, at this phase, you don't want to offer blueprints and have people measuring square footage, you know, but give people some general ideas of what the concept would be, what's the scale of the project, so that they could start to visualize what the construction implications will be for traffic on their street. So, you know, there will be contractors pickups parked along Churchill, and there will be construction fencing up for, so outlining the schedule of events, giving them like 2 or 3 renderings of what this would look like, so that when we are ready to present it to the public, they've, just as a good neighborly gesture, they've had the chance to see it first, to reach out to the HOA and,
Let me ask this, are we going to need to get any sort of a special use permit or anything?
what's some of the questions I mean, we have to make sure that we're
We should.
clear with the
because
village, that
that's
we're clear with
part of the
everything, that
zone for
everything's.
Fire department.
Okay,
Oh,
just because for that special use, for the, if you have to go in front of the, like, your planning commission, there's going to be public notices and a hearing there.
Right.
And I would probably agree with Scott to the extent that I would rather deal with that, like, let the public get their opportunity there. If we don't have to go with that, then sure. But people, you know, if you want to meet with some people.
Just verify, I mean, I know that the village specifically required the village set that property aside for us.
It's for us, and then if not for us, it'll be for.
It's zoned for a PUD for 4 detached single-family houses or a fire station.
Okay, just as long as we have that, because if you're gonna have to go before the planning commission, then I would not necessarily recommend having all these public meetings, because they're just gonna try to use everything you do against you. at
yes,
that hearing.
that's my, and that would be my, not that we've seen a lot of hate towards us, but I would like to make sure that we have
Everything done.
everything
Right.
done.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Always,
Right, okay.
That's the plan.
I don't want to be reactionary, I want to be cautionary. I want to make sure that we've followed everything, that the village is on board, that everyone's on board. And then I think it's very important to explain in detail, once we know we're moving forward. I would hate to have someone all of a sudden kibosh this somehow, some way. But I mean, there's things going on that are silly in Winfield that I was privy to last night that I don't want to share it open meeting, but some of the people that are suing people for the beautification that they've done, you'd be shocked. So,
So is your advice to wait to do something like that until after the contract is let from the contractor and bids accepted and shovels in the ground?
No, I'm not, I know.
I was asking.
Okay.
At the very least, approval from the village. that
Everything.
you Do it.
all the gold, all the lights are green.
Financing.
I wanna know that you guys, I wanna confirm that you don't have to go in front of a planning commission or you're gonna have to do another hearing. Cause if you're gonna have to do a hearing, then I don't wanna, that'll be put in the paper. One of the attorneys for another district that I cover is at a planning use hearing now. Cause the chief went there and the village isn't in favor of it, but their planning commission isn't because they had to get a special use permit because they approved a referendum to get money to do this. And the people in that planning commission are people who voted against it. So I don't wanna have you guys having this meeting with people where they're gonna be trying to cause even if you show them renderings, I promise you, they're gonna try to measure it out and say, it only has 7 trees and, there's a lot that goes into it.
Fortunately, I don't think we're cutting down any trees, are we?
Yeah, well, or are you gonna put stuff that, cause usually villages have a landscape plan as well that you have to follow, so you gotta make sure you're putting in plants that won't destroy the native grasses or the native
No, you're
animals.
right.
So
Those people are.
And they are taking all that into account, the
Yeah.
neighborhood, trying to design it around the neighborhood. So-
Right, yeah, the architects do a great job and they're familiar with it. My thing is just that,
Let's
as
make
long
sure
as
we're-
we don't have to do some public hearings, then hey, enjoy talks to the public and if we gotta do public hearings, we do the public hearings first. Because until we do the public hearings, we don't really know what's gonna be there anyway. Until we get that
I don't think
approval.
we have to.
I wanna make sure that we don't jump.
The gun.
Exactly, I mean, I'm not
I
trying.
guess in my mind, I was just thinking that before a bid is put out for public, for public awareness that, hey, a bid's out and you're opening bids, that's executing a plan. So it just
And you're
seemed
correct.
logically, like, it would be better to do a public open house presentation before you release those bids, which is coming real fast.
Well, if you don't have to do a special use or some sort of thing, that will all occur before you do a bid, because we're not going to do a bid if there's some reason you gotta get some special, you're not gonna do a bid out until you know you've got all of your permit and zoning. It sounds like you've got that, but if you
About
didn't,
that, especially.
No,
if you didn't,
I haven't got an answer up.
As far as I've known, since we bought that property, it's been fire station, and then if we release it, it goes to single family.
Right. That's the way it's been.
yeah, just confirm it.
But it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't.
Just confirm it, because then.
Unless you got something in writing.
Once you do that hearing process is before you do your bids. So that will be before you do the bids, but let's just not do that until we know that we got our
That's
zoning
fine.
correct.
It's just something we wanted to bring up as, I think it's something we should be prepared to.
Oh, yeah,
Start
you're gonna get questions for sure.
I think that 100%, but let's make sure that we can answer every question first.
You can play for Clemson.
That we are expecting, I mean, there's always a question you're not expecting.
Sure.
But for 99% of them, let's be ready that we have all the answers, let's make sure we're all green lights and that we're all on the same page. And then there's gonna be someone that's not happy. It's impossible.
I know a lot,
And I expect
several
that.
people over in that neighborhood know what's going on.
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah,
they
all
will.
We're not trying
Yeah,
to
they
hide that.
No, no, I don't
Trying
think
to-
we, we're talking an open meeting, I mean, we're not trying to hide anything.
And I've communicated with several residents over
Right.
there, so, including the president of the church.
Just make sure that we're all on the same.
So when will Pete give us, when will we know about the,
As soon as I can get a hold of them, got voicemail for a while now.
is he on vacation?
I don't think so.
Still works.
Peter Crummins is the community development coordinator at the
Oh, okay, it's not the,
No.
okay, the other guy, he maybe did.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, that's it.
And then the last thing is, the contingent of us met with, President of CEH and senior staff, last month. We've been communicating a little bit back and forth, but it's still early on in the process of getting together with the Northwestern Foundation to start working on the details of the continuation of the grant. And that's all I really have for, just to know that it's a work in progress. That's my report.
They haven't said no.
That was a very positive meeting. They asked what it had been doing with our money. But I think we gave a very comprehensive report on what we've been doing with their money and where it's been going. It was either the warmest farewell that I've ever been to, or it was a very positive ending, which ended with some chit chat and some just a very.
Most of the people in the room were new to the organization or since the last terms of the last grant. So most of them were all new to the discussion and relationship between the agencies.
Oh, good.
So it was a lot of just getting to know each other.
Right. I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
But if we're too comfortable, it's those that are in the city that actually.
right, those are the ones, yeah. Those are the ones.
Which actually, those, in our previous one, all the people that we met with in the previous grant have all, retired and moved on as well. So there's no one in that level of the organization that,
No old ones.
But they,
all the way down to the foundation, everyone is new in the position.
it was not hostile, it was very welcome, it was very, felt good. Unless I read the room wrong. I felt the same. I felt the same. Thank you, chief. Mr. Attorney.
Very brief closed session.
Okay. Do we have any old business to discuss? No? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about you. New business. I need a motion to appoint Brian Burke to the pension board.
I move to appoint Brian Burke to the pension board.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Get a motion to approve policies number 605, 609, 610, 703, 705, 907.
I had questions or discussion for policy 703.
Respectfully, I was going to request that one be pulled.
Okay.
It was not yet ready.
Works for me.
Okay, then, we'll, take 703 out, for the approval, and I believe that would be roll call. Is that how you like to do that?
I do, but we didn't have a second.
Yeah, who was the second?
I would read the ones that we want to do, take some.
Yeah.
Okay,
Read them.
so I need,
Take 703 out.
okay,
And so that's policy 605, 69, 610, 705, and 907.
okay, is there a second? Okay,
Second.
roll call, please.
President Kells?
Yes.
Secretary Stas? Treasurer Hannan?
Yep.
Trustee Simpson? Trustee Allen?
Yes.
The surplus list is, NA, so nothing to move on there. Do I have a motion to pay the bills? Roll call, please.
President Kells?
Yeah.
Secretary Stas?
Yes.
Treasurer Hannan?
Yep.
Trustee Simpson?
Yes.
Trustee Allen?
Yeah.
We are going to move to closed session for a brief.
Yep, that's to discuss, under 2C1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act, the appointment, employment, compensation benefits of specific employees of the district. So I would ask for the 5 trustees, Chief and Rob.
Do you want to? We need to
Ask
do
us
public
what, to leave?
comment before we go in.
Oh, you guys, I thought you did the public comment.
We did public comment earlier. We don't do it twice. You're good.
Did you have a motion?
You had it.
A motion to go into
Oh,
closed session?
Yes.
I had not gotten a motion or a second that I
No,
heard, so.
I didn't hear you.
I make a motion that we
Be
go
kicked
in
out.
Just
Yes,
to
sir.
verify,
Closed session.
okay.
Second.
I didn't know.
all in favor.
have the same look you did. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
that's
Yeah,
good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you
Are
again.
we all in favor?
All in favor, yes.
Alright, we got a. The board's going back in open session to adjourn. We're going back into open session to adjourn. They don't have any action after closed session. Did you, Alright, you can make a motion.
Go ahead, we'll
Make a motion with.
okay, and do I have a second to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, Rob.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
Did you have any comments?
You missed your opportunity, guys.
Okay.
I still.
Okay.
We got